Hi there, Ryan Cato from the Backups Cast, coming to you live from my bedroom. As you can see, if you're watching the video, if you're just listening, thank goodness, because I'm looking a little rough. We've been having some major technical difficulties when it comes to recording in this time with quarantine and all that. We've been recording over Skype, and we did have some technical difficulties in this episode, but we appreciate you sticking with us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. So, here it comes.
And we should be good to go. Hunter, take us in.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of The Backups, a football podcast. I'm Hunter, joined as always with Cato and Trevor. How you boys doing?
Doing pretty well. Like I said, eating some homemade salsa verde. Roasted some tomatillos today. It was delightful. And it's been a good day.
That's good. That's good.
Hunter, how are you doing?
Boys.
You know, I'm just hanging in there. I'm ready to hear some NFL news from Trevor, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's hit it. All right, our first item of the day is Taysom Hill got a 2-year, $21 million deal from NOLA, which is pretty crazy to me for a backup. And then 16 of it is guaranteed. So, what do y'all think?
Yeah, that's a wild ass deal for an offensive gadget player who touches the ball, 1, 2, 3 times a game, something like that. It's pretty wild to me, especially given the fact they drafted a quarterback, and we'll talk about in a minute, Jameis too. That's a lot of money to be shelling out, but I guess like if you got the cap space for it, on one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, you got to trust it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it because he's not your star at any position, and he's just a backup quarterback, and you're going to sit here and pay him. He's not even like your direct backup at this point because you drafted somebody else, and then you just signed somebody who we're going to get to in a minute. But it just doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to pay Taysom Hill what you're paying him.
Yeah, they might have the most expensive QB room as far as a group. I think Drew Brees did take a pay cut, so I may give him that. And then our second item is good old Jameis Winston went to the Saints as well as a backup quarterback. I think this is a great move for both sides. Jameis gets to learn behind Drew Brees, Sean Payton, gets to learn how to be an actual quarterback. Should be on a cheaper side for NOLA, and they get some intel on their division rival, the Buccaneers. So overall, good deal to me.
Contract details aren't out yet, right?
Not yet, but we do know it is confirmed.
Okay, cool.
Well, good for Jameis. Good for him.
I mean, he was going to sit behind Brady either way. Might as well, if he's going to go back to Tampa, so might as well sign him somewhere. I was not expecting New Orleans, honestly. We had talked about like L.A., Pittsburgh, a couple other places, but
I would have loved to see him go to Pittsburgh, sit behind Big Ben, but
I think it would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
Sit behind a veteran like that, but now he's sitting behind Drew Brees, so I think he might be all right.
Can't hurt.
Yep. Next up, we got Trent Williams, formerly of the Washington Redskins, gets traded on draft night to the San Francisco 49ers. This is a good move, especially for San Fran, because to add some more news, their starting left tackle, Joe Staley, retires at 35 years old. So he told them before the draft that he was going to retire, so they immediately started talking to Washington and got him in San Fran. Great move overall.
Yeah, which that actually opened some eyes on why Tampa Bay traded ahead one spot on draft night, because they must have known too, I guess, somehow that the 49ers might be eyeing a tackle. So they traded up, got Tristan Wirfs, which is the final of the top 4. But obviously the 49ers came out winners on this one because they got a 7-time Pro Bowl tackle. Something like that. So and to replace their legendary tackle, Joe Staley. I mean, so like we've talked about, the rich keep getting richer.
Yeah, sir. I love that pickup for all parties involved. Washington finally gets to get rid of Williams after hearing him bitch and bitch and bitch. Niners get a franchise left tackle, and then Williams gets to go play for a contender. The whole thing is good all the way around.
Yeah,
yep.
I agree. I think that's about all the news we got this week. Is that right, Trevor?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So we're going to be moving into some draft grades. That's the podcast episode for tonight. We're just going to hit them in alphabetical order by location. So it'd be like Arizona, Atlanta, etc. Give it a little grade. Talk about anybody we like on the draft class, some value picks, and we're just going to bust through all 32 teams. One episode. Go crazy on it. So let's talk about Arizona. The first round, getting Isaiah Simmons at 8. Not necessarily like a need pick for them, but a huge pickup for that defense. He's versatile, right behind Budda Baker. It could be a crazy pickup for the defense. Getting Josh Jones in the third, I think, was a value pick. And a pick I really liked was Eno Benjamin. Got him in the 7th round. Some of the quickest feet I saw on film from the running backs, and I think that's a big value pick too.
Yeah, I definitely love the Cardinals draft. Isaiah Simmons was an incredible value. Josh Jones was an absolute steal in the 3rd, considering we talked about him going in the 1st round to Miami.
Yeah.
But my favorite pick of this draft is Rashard Lawrence, the defensive tackle from LSU, going in the 4th. I mean, honestly, it's a great value for him right there, but he's one of those guys that I thought could be a steal for them, and we will plug and play on that front 7 for them.
Yeah, Arizona's overall, I think I'd give it a solid B. I mean, Isaiah Simmons immediately upgrades your defense. Freaking Kyler Murray's been running for his life the whole season, so Josh Jones is a really good pickup for them, especially in the 3rd round. Lee KFO2, good nose tackle, should immediately start to help them stop the run as far as Seattle, who loves to run the ball, and the 49ers as well. Another good DT, Rashard Lawrence, like Hunter mentioned. And then mentioned Eno Benjamin at the end, really good value, and pair him with Kenyon to be really fun.
Yeah, I think we lost you there for a minute, but like you said, Eno Benjamin paired with Kenyon Drake, I think will be an excellent pairing in that backfield. Not to mention, they essentially traded a 2nd round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the better receivers in the NFL right now. So insane value on Arizona's draft. I'll give it a B+.
It's definitely B+ for me too when you factor in the DeAndre Hopkins trade.
Yes, saying that it immediately raises it for me.
Yeah, so excellent draft from them. Let's talk about Atlanta. I know you guys have differing opinions, and I would love to hear them both before I say anything, given you guys are the Falcons fans in the room. So Hunter, you want to give us the first opinion on this Atlanta draft?
Yeah, fuck Thomas Dimitroff. I think he botched his draft fairly well. AJ Terrell, solid value in the 1st round. I'm not too upset about that one. I wasn't happy at the time, but looking back at it, whatever, could be worse. Marlon Davidson, great pick. Love him as an immediate starter to pair next to Grady Jarrett. Matt Hennessy in the 3rd. I hate that one when Lloyd Cushenberry was still in the field or on the board. I think Hennessy's a year or 2 away from being able to be a starter. Miguel Walker in the 4th. I'm not upset with that one. I think there were better guys on the board than him, but I like the value of him as a linebacker in the 4th. I hate the Jalen Hawkins pick when there were guys like Bradley and Nye still on the board, Kenny Willekes still on the board, guys at the edge position that could step in and play immediately. And then we draft a freaking punter in the 7th round. A punter. When you could get any other position, you take a punter. It's just, I'm not happy with it. It's kind of like a C from me.
All right, for me, I think I'd give it a solid just B-. As Falcons fans know, and just football fans know, we lost Desmond Trufant in free agency this season, so we signed a huge number 1 need for me, which was cornerback. So we got AJ Terrell out of Clemson. Should be a little bit of growing pains, I expect, but should be an overall good pick. Marlon Davidson in the 2nd. That's might be my favorite pick of this draft. Pair him with Grady Jarrett, and it should just wreck offensive lines. In the 3rd round, we got Matt Hennessy. I think the reason they went with him over Cushenberry is because he has center experience, and with Alex Mack's last year on contract being next year, I think they're looking to move past him after this coming season. So the top 3 picks I like. Michael Walker or Mikael Walker should be just a fine pick. I don't think he'll be anything special his rookie year. Jalen Hawkins, I will agree. I would much rather have Bradley and I. But as you know, our safeties are constantly hurt, so he should give us decent depth. A punter, like who gives a shit? Like a punter, you're paying him $500 a year, pretty much. So, so it's not a big deal to give him the 7th, in my opinion. But solid B- for me.
Yeah, so for me, I'd give this, like Trevor said, I'd give it a B minus. I agree, and I do like the AJ Terrell pick. I think we were all kind of confused at the time, but we did mock it in our Twitter mock draft. We were kind of expecting it. AJ Terrell, it seems like a reach at 16, but he was a solid player all year. Did get burned in the national championship by the best receiver in the NCAA a couple of times, but I think he's a solid running back. He's pretty big, which I know Dan Quinn likes. So I think that's a solid pickup in the first. Marley Davidson, I think, is a good pick too. I think it's a lot like the pick of AJ Epineza that we'll talk about with the Bills. Looking for like a guy who played in. He's a little bit bigger, kick inside. But I would have liked to see Bradley and I them get that pick and kick Tack McKinley inside instead. Matt Hennessy, like you said, the Temple center who can take over for Alex Mack. Yeah, I don't super understand the punter in the 7th either, to be honest. I know you said you're going to be paying him pretty much nothing, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, I have a feeling he would have been an undrafted free agent. You can just, stick with your team afterwards, pay him a little bit less. But of course, I don't know anything about him. I had never seen him kicked. He's from Syracuse and he's a punter, so I don't know. I'm not watching film on that. So maybe he's the second best punter in the draft. Who knows? So overall, I'd give it a B minus. I mean, they filled some holes. Would have liked to see the edge strengthened a little bit, but they did get some depth on defense. So I'm like so on their draft. I'm not hating it as much as some Falcons fans I've seen. Not you guys, but some other ones. Hate on it as much, So now we can talk about one of the better drafts in this 2020 NFL draft, Baltimore Ravens. Trevor, tell me your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens draft.
Well, I'm going to give this an A+, boys. Like, they killed it. Position of need linebacker. They got one of the best. If you put Isaiah Simmons as a top one, then you've got Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen. Well, they got Patrick Queen, and the first LSU player they've ever selected in their history, and he's one hell of a one. And then one of my top 5 favorite players in this draft, the second, J.K. Dobbins. I love this man, and they love to run the ball. So he should be another explosive element to that offense, which is even scarier. Then they went back to defense, got a good DT, Justin Matabuke, Devin Duvernay out of Texas. Matt Miller said he had the best hands in this class, so that should tell you all you need to know. Then they got another linebacker, Malik Harris, who I know Hunter loves to death. Should be a really good option for them. And then late round guy, Ben Bredesen. Me and Hunter have been on him for what feels like 8 months now, and he should be another key component to the offensive line. So they just freaking killed it this year.
Yeah, I think this was an excellent draft for Baltimore. I'll give it an A+ also. Patrick Queen at 28, excellent pick. Hell of a leader for the LSU defense. Great linebacker. We talked about him plenty. J.K. Dobbins, shifty-ass running back. Amazing. Pair him with Mark Ingram in that backfield. And then Malik Harrison adding more to their linebackers. He's more of like a traditional like power strength type linebacker. But I think he'll add a lot over the middle. And then I do want to highlight James Proche, the wide receiver out of Southern Methodist. I think that was actually a steal at 201. He didn't get very much hype coming into the draft, but it's got some crazy ball skills, great hands, and pretty good routes too. So they filled, I mean, every hole that they could have possibly had. for a team that did as well as they did last year. Beefed up their linebackers, added some receivers, and so I'd give it an A+ for sure.
Yeah, I definitely love Baltimore's draft. I think it was one of the best in this entire draft. Patrick Queen sliding all the way to 28, incredible. J.K. Dobbins, like Trevor was saying, is an absolute monster in that backfield. Malik Harrison was one of my favorite players in this draft. So to see him and Queen pair together to be the future of that linebacking core is insane. James Proche in the 6th could be a huge steal for them. So all in all, I love his draft. It's an A+.
Yeah, agreed. Filled every spot. So we're talking about the Buffalo Bills real quick.
Tell us about the Bills.
Yeah, I would love to. The Buffalo Bills, I think, had an excellent draft. I think they had one of the better drafts. It did get a little bit confusing near the end, but I think all of the picks were pretty good value. I mean, Epineza in the 2nd was, he's a great 3-4 end that we can stick in there. Power guy. We talked about him being like an 8 to 10 sack guy at the next level. I think that's great for the Bills. That fills the hole that Shaq Lawson left. We got Zach Moss from Utah to sit in the backfield with Devin Singletary, a little 1-2 punch. And then we did pick Gabriel Davis and Isaiah Hodgins, both wide receivers from UCF and Oregon State, respectively. And they're size receivers. They're big guys, and they're filling that kind of need. Although we did get Stephon Diggs for the trade of our first-round pick to Minnesota, we're still looking for a deep threat, somebody that we can just kind of loft the ball to, and they're going to bring it down. And Josh Allen does have some problems with accuracy, although his arm talent's like very good. So it's I'd say I'd call this an A- draft for the Buffalo Bills. Want to highlight also the fact that we did pick Jake Fromm, which I was pretty confused about, and I'm sure I'll hear it from you two what you guys think. But that was a kind of a confusing pick for me in the 5th round.
Yeah. I like the Bills draft. I love Epineza in the 2nd. I actually had him graded as a first-round grade, so to see him slide there, really nice value for Buffalo. Gives them a versatile player for their front 7. Zach Moss to pair with Singletary, like you said, incredible. I don't really get the whole Hodgins and Davis one, because they're both very similar types of receivers, but, might as well when you feel like that could be all that you're missing. It's just some bigger receivers. The Fromm pick, I don't really love. I don't really see what the difference is between Fromm and what is currently on roster in terms of Matt Barkley and Davis Webb. I think he's very similar to them in terms of his skill set. I know our boy over at Draft Right, John Vogel, says that he thinks Fromm could come in and win the starting job from Josh Allen. So I guess that's something we could wait and see. All in all, I give this one a B-. I think it's a solid draft, but not an amazing draft.
Yeah, I'd like to say I respectfully disagree on the Fromm thing. Fromm to me is a career backup. He's got small hands. His arm talent is average. His athleticism is average. He's a genius on the field, very smart, very high football IQ. I just am not sure that we're going to see him take the job from somebody who can throw the ball 80 yards and run. But we very well may see. I mean, depending on Josh Allen's injury status, maybe we could see Jake Fromm come in and do something special. Trevor, I want to hear your thoughts on the Bills draft, though, for sure.
All right, I think I want to start out. I'm going to give them a B this year, and I'm going to account for Stephon Diggs in the 1st. I'm going to give them a B+, A-, somewhere in there. Stephon Diggs, of course, they traded for him in the offseason, and they already have John Brown on roster, so they need a little bit more size at wide receiver. So they got that with Gabriel Davis and Isaiah Hodgins. And then Ejay Epinesa is a really good value pick, especially after they lost, was it Shaq Lawson, I believe,
Yeah.
in the offseason. So it should fill another hole. And then they like their run game, so Zach Moss in the 3rd is a really good pick for them. workhorse. You can just feed him the ball all day. As far as Fromm goes, I think it's a really smart move as far as like a locker room guy for especially a QB room. As far as on the play, I don't think he'll do very much in Buffalo. He's not beating out Josh Allen. That offense is based around Josh Allen. He does not fit it at all. So he'll probably just sit there unless somebody trades for him. He'll probably be a career backup. And then Ryan mentioned that their kicker has been struggling this year. So they got a kicker in the 6th round. But it should be okay. Hopefully he turns out. It's no Robert Aguayu in the 2nd.
Sure. I mean,
so
yeah.
Overall,
there were videos of him on Twitter kicking the ball like 70 yards with the wind at his back. So I'll take that. I mean, if he can put it through the uprights at least, it'll be better than Hauschka was last year.
You have to have a leg in Buffalo.
Yeah, facts. But Trevor, why don't you just take us straight into Carolina's draft? I know one of your favorite players highlighted the top of it.
Well, damn Carolina took another one of my favorite players. I have to give them just a solid A. They freaking killed this draft, in my opinion. Their first pick, Derek Brown, might be my number 1 overall favorite player in this draft. They lost Donatari Poe and I think Gerald McCoy too, so they needed somebody in the interior. So Derek Brown should be plug-in game wrecker on day 1. And then somehow Gross Matos fell to the 2nd round, so they got him early 2nd round. And pairing him with Brian Burns, their D line is going to be way better than it was last season. And then with their second round pick, they got Jeremy Chin, a safety, which their secondary has always struggled a little bit. So he's a versatile guy from a smaller school, I believe. So he may have to take some time to adapt, but it should be overall good pick. Got a decent corner out of Notre Dame, Troy Pride Jr. Overall, they got a lot of guys who are going to contribute in their rookie year, in my opinion.
Yeah, Carolina loaded up on defense on this one. Not a single offensive pick, which I'm a little on the fence about. I would have liked to see them maybe give something else to their offense, but they went all in on defense this time. I do love the Derek Brown pick, an athletic, crazy disruptor, defensive tackle. Jeremy Chin for sure is my favorite pick of theirs. I saw him a lot like Isaiah Simmons. He's smaller school. He's from Southern Illinois, which is FCS. You know how I love the FCS guys.
Yes, sir.
But I did see him a lot like Simmons in his range, his versatility. He's a big boy safety. He's like 6'3". So I think he could really make waves even this year at Carolina. And then, like you said, Troy Pride Jr., excellent cornerback, I thought, out of Notre Dame, especially at that pick, number 113 in the 4th round. So they did go all in on defense this time. So I would have liked to see them do a little bit more for their offense. So I'll give it a B. But I do like a lot of these picks that I'm seeing here for Carolina.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give it a B+. I love the Derek Brown pick. The Eater pick is just incredible. Jeremy Chin, I thought, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But one I really like is the Kenny Robinson Jr. pick. He, if I'm remembering correctly, he is the XFL player.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just make sure I remember correctly. And I think that one's an incredible pickup in the 5th. It's not often you get to go against a guy who's already played against. It's not often you get to grab a guy in the draft who's played against some of the talent that's been floating around the NFL for years. So I don't know. I really like it. Like I said, I'm giving it a B+. I think the front 7 is going to be vastly improved, and their defense is going to be scary this year.
Agreed. I would have liked to see them hit linebacker maybe a little bit earlier. Unless did they do something in free agency when it came to linebacker? I'm not sure if I remember.
I don't
remember any.
My mind's drawing an absolute blank, but I don't think they addressed linebacker.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to the Luke Kuechly situation, would have loved to see them hit linebacker. But overall, I think a fairly good draft for Carolina. Chicago, Hunter, tell me about Chicago.
All right, Chicago, I think, had one of the weirder drafts. They added another tight end, so now they're up to 10 tight ends on roster at time of recording, with Cole Kmet. The tight end out of Notre Dame, most people's tight end one, which, if you're going BPA, sure, that makes sense. But you have so many other holes, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. You have Jalen Johnson in the second, also, who a lot of people had a first-round grade on. You get a starting corner, which is nice. But then after that, they didn't pick again until the fifth. Then they had 3 fifth-round picks, which they used on Travis Gibson out of Tulsa. He's a defensive end. Kendall Vildor, a cornerback out of Southern, who I really like, but still, once again, don't really get it. Darnell Mooney, a wide receiver out of Tulane. That one could be solid. But then they had 2 picks in the 7th. Arlington Hambright, a guard out of Colorado. And then Latavius Simmons, another guard out of Tennessee State. I don't think this was a good draft. I'm going to give it a D all the way around. I know a lot of people are praising it, but I don't love it. I thought there were a lot of holes on the offensive side of the ball that were not addressed.
Yeah, I think I'm not a huge fan of it either, Hunter. I'm gonna give it a C. I mean, they got so many tight ends, but Cole Kmet's probably the best one they have on the roster. Well, they did get Jimmy Graham, but he's still better than Jimmy Graham probably. Yeah, Cole Kmet, he's tight end 1. He should be a decent pick for them in a weak tight end class. It's not their number. I think I would have upgraded their offensive line personally. With Jalen Johnson in the second as well. They did need corner help. I think one left in free agency, if I remember correctly. And I liked his tape a good bit, as long as he can stay consistent. Then, like Hunter said, didn't pick again to the 5th. They got an edge. I don't know if I would go D-line with them because their D-line's already so good. So I feel like he could have gone a little bit better there. Kendall Vildor, I've heard good things about him. Just a smaller school guy at Georgia Southern. So hopefully he turns out okay. And then they needed wide receiver help. I think Taylor Gabriel is still a free agent, I believe, or maybe he just signed somewhere else. And then they didn't address their offensive line until the round 7. So I'm not a huge fan of their draft at this moment.
Yeah, I don't love it. I think that the main pick to highlight is Jalen Johnson. I think Jalen Johnson is actually pretty solid value at 50. I think he could have gone first round, honestly, with the amount of quarterbacks that did go. But yeah, Cole Kmet in the first, or not in the first, with their first pick rather. I don't really understand that. I don't know what kind of offense they think they're going to be running. But it's just a bunch of big white men, I guess, is their strategy. Loaded up with 6'6" white dudes. But
11 tight ends on the field. That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, brother? Like, I really like they're gonna outfit their whole line with tight ends. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the plan is. But
they probably throw better than Trubisky.
Put Cole Kmet in as quarterback.
No, dude, Jimmy Graham's gonna be the face of that franchise. He's gonna be the new quarterback.
Cole Kmet was a two sport athlete. Didn't he play baseball or something like that, or basketball at Notre Dame? So he could maybe he'll come in for Trubisky. Who knows? Kendall Vildor, I think, is a good pick. I actually did like his film, but he needs some development. And it's not. I don't think he'll be like a right away starter at all. I mean, he was picked in the 5th round. I just don't like it too much. I give it probably like a C-, D+, something like that. It doesn't feel to me like they filled too much of the needs that they have for this coming season. To be fair, they didn't have that many picks, but we can talk about the Cincinnati Bengals draft, though, which is coming up next, and I personally am a big fan of it. They picked Joe Burrow first overall. We've been talking about that for weeks and months, but I think when you get into the meat of their draft in the middle part, you see some really great picks for value in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th round. I think T. Higgins at the beginning of the 2nd round, excellent pick for them. Give Joe Burrow a weapon. I think he'll be perfect for a young quarterback like that. 2 of my favorite linebackers outside of the top tier, Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither, ADG, picked back to back on their picks, 3rd and 4th round. I think will beef up that defense. And then Hakeem Adeniji, actually, the guard out of Kansas, big old boy. I think he's a great pick at 180. So I'm gonna give this a B plus. I think this is an excellent draft for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I definitely love this draft. Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously we knew he was gonna be first overall. T. Higgins in the second, I think, is an incredible value. I love the Wilson and Akeem Davis picks. I think that's going to build your linebacking core very strongly. And then 5 through 7, I think it's just nice, solid depth picks, like you said. But all in all, I think it's a nice draft. I'm going to give it a B+.
All right, I think I'm going to go a little bit higher than you. I think I'm going to give it an A. I mean, you get your QB1, you get Joe Burrow. Depending on who you ask, it looks like the best season as a quarterback in college football history. This kid should be really good as long as he has an offensive line. T. Higgins, he says he models his game after A.J. Green. So as long as A.J. Green's healthy and on the field for them, they could have 2 A.J. Greens out there. So great pick for them. And then linebacker's always been a weakness for them for a few years. So now they got Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis Gaither to add to that. And then you got a late-round guy, Marcus Bailey. So it should really highlight a centerpiece of their defense. And added another edge piece. So overall, I just think it's a really good draft. Maybe you could have added a couple offensive linemen in there, possibly, but with the picks they ended up getting, I kind of like what they went with.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, those linebackers, I think, in the 3rd and 4th round, excellent picks. I think that they can make a splash nearly immediately when it comes to this season. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns draft. Trevor, you want to start us off on that one, if you will? Yeah.
Another draft that I like a lot. I'm going to give this another A. I think they killed it. Ohio killed it as a state this year, apparently. We've mentioned it several times. Baker Mayfield was running for his life last season, so now he's got Jedrick Wills, tackle at Alabama. Should move in nicely to the left side. Him and Jack Conklin should really just anchor in the edges of that line. Then you got Grant Delpit in the second. If he can look like 2018 Grant Delpit, he might be the steal of the draft this year. Hopefully he plays up to his potential. And then they needed a little bit more D-line help in the interior. So they got Jordan Elliott out of Mizzou. I did like him a good bit. And then this one was kind of an odd one to me because of the tight ends already have on roster, but they got Harrison Bryant at a FAU, who might be the most versatile tight end in this draft. He has a lot of potential, so hopefully he can work out for them. And Nick Harris out of Washington in the 5th round should be a really good depth piece, maybe a future starter. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, I talked about him a podcast or 2 ago. I love him to death. He got hidden by poor QB play, but as far as his traits, he could be a real star in that offense in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, address their biggest need right away with Jedrick Wills. I think Jedrick Wills falling to them was best case scenario for Cleveland. Excellent pass protection at Alabama for Tua Tagovailoa. And I love the Grant Delpit pick there in the 2nd round. I think that's really good value. I do want to talk about Donovan Peoples-Jones, though. Really did take a hit from the Shea Patterson quarterback play. I think he's an excellent receiver, honestly. And at pick 187, that's amazing to me that he would fall that far, honestly. So I really like that pick, and I think that pick of Harrison Bryant kind of like marks the end of Njoku in Cleveland, I guess.
Very possible
because that, I mean, I see no reason because Harrison Bryant, top 3 or 4 tight ends in this class that they were talking about. So quite the draft. I think they did do a good job, though. I'm going to give it a B+.
Yeah, I definitely give this one a solid B. I love the Jedrick Wills pick. Gives Baker a left tackle to keep him upright to pair with Conklin. Grant Delpit, very solid potential starter. If he plays anything like he did in 2018, if he plays like 2019, solid depth piece. Jordan Elliott's going to be a good rotational piece for that D-line. Jacob Phillips will help fill the hole left by Joe Schobert when he left in free agency. And then Harrison Bryant, like y'all said, end of Joku. But my favorite pick is Donovan Peoples-Jones. Gives a big red zone threat for Baker because neither OBJ or Jarvis Landry are big-bodied receivers. So I think it's a solid draft all the way around.
Yeah. Tanner, why don't you take us straight into Dallas here? Considered one of the better drafts in the class, but I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, so I'm going to give Dallas an A. They took BPA in the first round with CeeDee Lamb, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma, who nobody had sliding that far. But here he is, perfect for Dallas. And then second, they put Trevon Diggs, who a lot of people had a first-round grade on. Incredible potential starting cornerback to fill the hole left by Byron Jones. Neville Gallimore in the third gives a nice upside raw player. Reggie Robinson, I think, is going to be a solid depth piece. Tyler Beasdaz is going to be an incredible replacement for Travis Frederick if he comes back healthy. And then I think one of the biggest steals of the draft, Bradley fucking Anae, sliding all the way to the 5th round. The defensive end out of Utah. I had a second-round grade on him, so it's incredible to see him slide all the way here. But props to Dallas for grabbing him when they did. And then the 7th pick, Ben DiNucci, a quarterback out of James Madison. All in all, I think this is a very solid, if not one of the best drafts in this entire draft class. I think you get 4 to 5 potential starters out of it. So I love it. I'm giving it an A.
Yeah, I call this an A+ draft. I mean, you get CeeDee Lamb at 17. I think that's an excellent pick. Randall Cobb is no longer on the team. He's in Houston. So he can just slide right in there at the slot with his quick feet. He's got great route tree, so I think that is a great pick at 17, especially for the value. Trevon Diggs falling to 51, that was surprising to me too. I mean, there was some cornerbacks taken in the first round, like Damon Arnett, that I was surprised that went then. And Trevon Diggs falling to them there fell right into their lap. I mean, Gallimore, another great pick. Beasdaz to fill Travis Frederick's hole, excellent. And like you said, Bradley Anae going all the way to the 5th round after an incredible Senior Bowl performance. I liked what I saw of him during the season on film, so was very confused by that, but hell of a pick by Dallas to pick him there. So yeah, overall, I think this is an A+ draft.
I'm going to go pretty close to both y'all. I'm going to give them an A. CeeDee Lamb at 17 fills another big need. Now their offense looks nasty with freaking Zeke, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb for as far as weapons go. Dak Prescott should be just drooling thinking about throwing CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Then Byron Jones left in free agency to go to Miami, so they needed a corner. And they got Trevon Diggs, a lot of upside with this guy, so he should start from day one. He may have a little bit of growing pains, but should be an overall just good second-round pick for them. And then Neville Gallimore, this pick's got a lot of upside, especially with Gerald McCoy and Dontae Pro getting a little up there in age. So if they can really harness his freaking traits, he could be a really good pick for them in the future. Tyler Beasdaz in the 4th to replace Travis Frederick. It's a really good gamble. He did struggle at times, but if he gets coached up well, which they always do with that freaking offensive line, always top 5 in the league. So he should be a really good pick for them. And then to steal the freaking draft, who I was in love with, Bradley and I, to add to that edge group. Overall, Dallas just killed it this year. Solid A for me.
Yeah, it is sad to see Anae heading to Dallas when he could have gone to Atlanta, fill some holes there. But unfortunately, that's how the picks fell. You guys ended up with a safety in that round. But, can't be too bitter about it, Hunter. You okay, buddy? You're looking a little sad there.
Yeah, I'm a little sad. Watching all these other teams have great picks, and then we're sitting here taking a fucking punter.
Hey,
but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I'll tell you. Listen, you got Terrell. I think Matt Hennessy's a great pick, but we gotta move on to Denver. I think this is a pretty good draft from Denver. I'd probably give it a B+. Jerry Jeudy in the 1st, obviously a great pick. We were mocking receivers to them for weeks and weeks, and put him opposite of Cortland Sutton, and then KJ Hamler again, number 2. Wide receiver, and then I want to highlight Lloyd Cushenberry and Nete Moody, beefing up the middle of that offensive line. I think that those are both excellent picks.
Yeah, I definitely love the Judy pick. It gives Drew Lock an incredible number one receiver to pair opposite of Cortland Sutton. KJ Hamler, I think, was a bit of a luxury pick, but I don't think you can go wrong with it if you're trying to build around that young franchise guy. My favorite one is Cushenberry in the third. I think that's just another way to beef up that O-line and help, make it better to keep your franchise QB upright. McTelvin Agam, not huge on, but I think solid value there. Don't like Alberto. I didn't like Alberto at the combine, didn't like his tape. I had a lower grade on Alberto than a fourth round grade, so I think they reached there. But all in all, I really like the draft. So,
yeah, I'm gonna give this a solid B+. They got wide receiver 1, Jerry Jeudy, pair him with Cortland Sutton for them. And then they also got Melvin Ingram in the free agency, so that offense should be good already. Then you add another wide receiver, KJ Hamler, out of Penn State. Should really just boost his weapons a lot. And then their offensive line has always struggled, so Lloyd Cushenberry in the third automatically gives you good depth, maybe even a starter this year. Albert O, as far as playmaking, this guy's fast as crap for a tight end. So add him with Noah Fant. Should be a really good overall tight end group. Overall, just a solid draft for them. I think this automatically makes them contenders in the AFC West. So a solid B+ from me.
Yeah. Trevor, why don't you take us straight into Detroit here? Picked at number 3, which is and they picked who we mocked too. So let's talk about them real quick.
Detroit, I'd probably give a solid B. They did need a corner, so they went with Jeff Okudah, best one in this class. Not say too much. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but he should just shut down just about everybody he's on. DeAndre Swift, that kind of confused me a little bit. I mean, I know the running backs have been hurt recently, so DeAndre Swift is a good option. So pair him with, my mind just went blank, the Auburn running back. Kerryon Johnson, thank you. He's been hurt a good bit, so that should be a good duo. Julian Okwara as a good edge piece, nothing great. Overall, just a solid B+ for me for Detroit.
Yeah, I call this a C+ draft. I think it's pretty good, and they did fill some holes, but they doubled up quite a bit. Doubled up on running backs, guards, and defensive tackles in this draft. I think a couple of those weren't really necessary, but Okudah is an excellent pick. Same thing with DeAndre Swift, like you said. Pair him up with Kerryon Johnson if he can stay healthy. DeAndre Swift is an excellent pass-catching back. They also did pick a running back in the 5th out of New Mexico State that I actually haven't watched yet. So interesting there. But I think 2 solid picks at the 3rd and 4th rounds with Jonah Jackson and Logan Stenberg, the guards out of Ohio State and Kentucky. So overall solid draft, but I'd call it fairly average. I'll give it a C+.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a C+ also. There's some good picks in it, then there's some bad picks in it. But all in all, like I said, C+. Love the Okudah pick. Swift, very solid. Will be a perfect pairing with Kerryon Johnson. Okwara definitely has the potential to be good. Jonah Jackson and Lois Stenberg, both very solid value picks right there to help beef up that O-line. And after that, I think the rest of it's just really mediocre. I don't get the Jason Huntley pick. I don't get double dipping on DT. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really love the rest of it. So C+, B-. Can't go wrong with either of those.
Agreed. Well, boys, we are a third of the way through our draft grades right now.
Wow.
We're 11 teams in. We've eaten up some time, baby. This is going to be a hell of an episode. We are going to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, and every time I say sponsor, I just mean it's me. It's me every time. So we'll get a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back very shortly. Stick with us. Hello there, Ryan Cato coming at you live once again from the stew now. Got out of bed, but just wanted to give a quick shout out to DraftRite at DraftRite on Twitter and NFLDraftRite.com, spelled the same way. We've recently partnered with them to take our podcast game to the next level. They have excellent content on the site when it comes to articles, scouting reports, etc., as well as our boy John Vogel actually just started his own podcast covering draft news throughout the year. So if you like this what we're doing here at the Backups Cast, then you will love Draft Right. So we actually did lose some recording at the very beginning of our next segment with Green Bay and Houston's draft coverage. So I'll be covering that solo today, and we will get right into that in just a moment. All right, so let's talk about Green Bay's draft here. I was pretty confused, and as were my fellow podcasters on the Green Bay draft, taking Jordan Love in the first and kind of Aaron Rodgers was very confusing for me. I think Aaron Rodgers kind of turned into an asshole because of the way Brett Favre treated him when he came to Green Bay, and I'm not sure if Jordan Love is going to get the same treatment or not, but I'm not too positive on that. But, maybe we'll see a shift in Aaron Rodgers' mentality. It'll turn Jordan Love into an excellent quarterback. I think he's got the arm talent to be there, and so we're hoping that Aaron Rodgers can maybe develop him up. But it is confusing, this draft, and I'll talk about the rest in a minute. They're drafting like a rebuilding team. They were one win away from a Super Bowl appearance last year, and now they've pretty much not filled their biggest need at receiver. They'll be relying on Alan Lazard again to be their wide receiver too, which I'm no hate towards him, but he's just not the talent that you could have gotten when it came to their first round pick. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's still on the board, so kind of confusing there for me. But the rest of the draft kind of brings up questions too. You have, in your second round, you're going to pick A.J. Dillon, 240-pound power back, when your running back either led the league or was tied for the league lead in touchdowns last year. Very confusing for me there. A tight end in the third, one that wasn't even getting that much hype, ahead of people like Bryson Hopkins. Very confusing for me. They picked 3 interior offensive linemen in the 6th, 2 of them back-to-back. So I just have a lot of questions here, considering they lost a left tackle in Brian Bulaga, and then they're going to come and not fill that need. It's very confusing. But I guess, BG, the Packers GM, and Matt LaFleur felt as if it would be a good time to invest in the future and kind of work with what they have now. So that was a confusing draft for me. Personally, I don't really understand much of the reason behind any of it. I'd give it about a C. When it comes to the Houston Texans, I thought that they filled some needs. They just really didn't have that many picks. They had 5 total picks in this draft, all day 2 or later, and so it's hard for the Texans to really do much with what they had here with no first round pick. But Ross Blacklock in the first, I think, is an excellent pick. Could play as a nose guard at TCU, but I think he could kick out to 1 or 2 technique, even 3 technique in the NFL. I think he's got excellent moves for a guy that big, but it's not built on because his game isn't built on power. He's an athletic DT. I also do like the Charlie Heck pick in the 4th round. I think he could come in and be a tackle. I think he needs some development though. And then Isaiah Coulter and John Reed, I think, fill a couple of needs. Isaiah Coulter coming in, they do have, I believe it's Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb that have come in, but I could see Isaiah Coulter coming in and making a bit of a splash. Like I said, not too many picks here for the Texans, but overall, I think a very average draft. And so that concludes all of the picks that I missed when my internet went down near the beginning of this next segment. So we're going to kick it back into the Skype call, starting with the Colts draft coverage, and we will see you there.
All in all, I think it's a very solid draft. So Kato, we're on the Colts right now. Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Well, I appreciate it. My internet went down just a little bit. We may have missed a little bit of recording in there, but I will be happy to fill it in later. The Indianapolis Colts, let's talk about them. Michael Pittman Jr., I think, is a great pick in the second round. At 34, it actually may have been a little bit of a reach for me on my board, but I do like him there. Jonathan Taylor, I think, fills a spot for them at 41. And then, like you said, the Eason pick. I think the Eason pick is a good one. And I think he could develop into something really good for Indianapolis, given his arm talent. So overall, I think a very solid draft. And not to mention DeForest Buckner, they gave up their first round pick for. So I think successful for Indianapolis here.
Yeah, definitely. Very good. We're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars had a very big draft. Time to get it started. C.J. Henderson at pick 9, Kayvon Chason at 20, Laviska Shenault at 42, Davon Hamilton at 73, Ben Barch in the 4th, Josiah Scott also in the 4th, Shaquille Quarterman also in the 4th, Daniel Thomas in the 5th, Colin Johnson in the 5th, Jake Luton in the 6th, Tyler Davis in the 6th, and then Chris Claybrooks in the 7th. Boys, what are your thoughts on this draft?
Yeah, hell of a draft here, just picks wise. I like some picks, don't like others. But quite a draft. They had, how many picks was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think it's 11.
13. Yeah, something like that. Something crazy. Picks I do want to highlight, both C.J. Henderson and Kayvon Chason, obviously first round picks. Excellent. Fills holes that they obviously had, especially at cornerback. I think that Josiah Scott pick in the 4th out of Michigan State, I think, is an excellent pick too. I actually really like Shaquille Quarterman. He's another one of those big dog pounder type linebackers, like the OG type linebackers. I think he could cover something very well, him and Miles Jack over the middle. It does get a little dicey in the later rounds for the Jaguars. I think that they did fill some spots. I think Laviska Shenault is not really like the wide, like if they're looking for like a wide receiver 1 or 2, I don't really think he's that. I see him more as an offensive gadget piece. But overall, I'd say I'd give it a B. I think it's a pretty good draft just because of volume of picks. But they did have some picks that I was scratching my head on a little bit. So
I would give this draft a big plus for them. They lost their starting corner. They also lost Ramsey. They traded him last season. So C.J. Henderson, he was my CB2, excuse me. I really liked him. I wanted him in Atlanta very badly. So great pick for them in the 1st. Kayvon Chason, I think even fell to pick 20. So with Yannick Ngakoue being actual absolute dumbass on Twitter and wanting to get out of there, I think this is a great pick for them. Shenault, they need wide receiver help and even just playmaking help. So I like that pick for them. A guy I want to highlight is Colin Johnson in the later rounds. Big guy, big catch radius, good hands. Should be a really good jump ball guy for them. Overall, I did like their draft a pretty good bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very solid. C.J. Henderson replaces the Ramsey boy a-hole. Kayvon Chason and Josh Allen will create a dynamic edge rushing duo. Don't love the Shenault pick. Davon Hamilton's solid depth piece. Ben Barch, don't really get it, but it could be solid. Josiah Scott will hopefully be able to add to that secondary. If Quarterman can keep the rumored off-the-field issues under control, I think he has a potential step in and be an immediate playmaker for that Miami defense. Johnson, like you were saying, it gives them a weapon that they don't have in their receiver room right now. They don't necessarily have a receiver of his size or of his skill set, and I think him in the 5th is a very good spot for him. I think Jacksonville did an incredible first step of their rebuild. I don't expect them to win many more games this year, though, and I truthfully expect them to be in contention for the first overall pick next year. Cough, cough, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance.
Yeah, agreed. Trevor, let's kick it to Kansas City's draft. Tell me what you think. The Super Bowl winning Chiefs.
Overall, solid draft for them. I'd probably just give it a solid B. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the last pick of the first round. I like him a lot. Good receiving back out of the backfield. So another dynamic weapon. He doesn't have the top end speed, but that's what they have Tyreek Hill for, Nicole Hardman. So not that big a deal as far as stretching the field that much. I did like I think it's Damian Williams for them. So I don't think running back was that big of a need this early. Linebacker, they did need linebacker help. There's no hiding that. Lucas Yang out of TCU, he's a big tackle. They do need tackle help, so I did like that pick, especially for the third round. So overall, just a solid draft for them, and I think they're still the favorites for the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I'd agree. I do like that Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick at 32. I was mocking them a running back a couple of different times. Damian Williams, I think, is good, but I don't think he's anything special. And I think that just adds yet another scary weapon to that offense. The only thing that I didn't see them addressing here in this draft was the interior of their offensive line. I would have loved to see them get a guard or two, beef up the middle in the trenches. But I do like that Niang pick. I was actually a big fan of him pre-draft, as I am with a lot of these big, beefy tackles. He's sitting at like 6'7", 328 or something like that. So he's pretty large. So overall, I think it's like a perfectly average draft. I mean, there's not many needs you can fill when you're a Super Bowl winning team. So I'll give it a C+.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a C+ also. I think the Clyde Edwards pick is incredible. Give them a Brian Westbrook type player. Andy Reid's already came out and said Clyde Edwards is a better player than Brian Westbrook was.
Wow.
Willie Gay, very solid acquisition to help play linebacker for them. And Lucas Niang, very good depth piece to potential starter. But 4 through 7, I just thought was just moves who should be solid backups for them. So C+ or a C, however you want to look at it.
Let's kick it straight into Las Vegas's draft for this year. The newly Las Vegas Raiders.
You got it right with Las Vegas.
I did, and
I
wow,
think that's the
it
first
only
time on
took,
this podcast.
6 episodes. It took 6 episodes for me to actually call them the Las Vegas Raiders. But hell if I didn't do it, you know. I had some question marks about this draft. I'd probably give it a C or a C-. They did fill some holes, and that's at wide receiver and corner multiple times. Henry Ruggs, I think, is an excellent pick at 12. Was a little bit surprised to see him first off the board, but we talked about that he could be that first off the board on the wide receiver class. But then they picked back-to-back receivers in the third, out of Kentucky, and then Lynn Bowden out of Kentucky, rather, and then Brian Edwards, who I know Hunter's a big fan of. I actually really liked him too, out of South Carolina. But the big question mark that I really had was Damon Arnett in the first. I didn't see him as a first-round talent. In fact, I was thinking more late second round. There were just better corners on the board to me, a la Jeff Gladney, Jalen Johnson, etc. So big question mark for me there. I think Amik Robertson might have actually been a better pick in the 4th round than Damon Arnett. I think Amik Robertson has a lot of gas and great coverage skills, great press coverage skills. So for value, for sure, a better pick in the 4th round. So Hunter, let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Vegas Raiders feels that's still so weird to say. The Raiders addressed a lot of holes that they had. Henry Ruggs, Bowden, and Brian Edwards helped give them some receiver depth. I think Bowden's going to be more of a gimmick piece than a receiver, i.e. Taysom Hill, because he played quarterback this year at Kentucky. So there's a lot you can do with him. Henry Ruggs gives them somebody who can affect all 3 levels of the passing game. And Brian Edwards is a nice safety net receiver who's bigger than Hunter Renfrow, because there's only so much you can do with Hunter Renfrow. I love the John Simpson pick in the 4th. I thought he was going to go higher than that, probably like mid-3rd, but they got him in the 4th, and he's just going to be a big mauler for them. So all in all, I'm going to give it a B draft grade. I think Arnett, you probably could have waited on and grabbed somebody like Johnson or Gladney. However, shout out to Mike Mayock for doing his thing where he always goes out for the big school productive players. And he stuck to his guns with this one. And I don't think Arnett's going to be a bad pick.
Yeah, I'd give this draft a B minus. I really like Henry Ruggs in the first round. I think he's going to be the exception as far as like the speedy guy entering the NFL to where they always struggle. This guy's actually an athlete and has hands. I think it's going to be a really dynamic pick for them because they leaned on Josh Jacobs all last season. It felt like so it's going to be nice for Derek Carr to have somebody throw to like Henry Ruggs, and you add in Lynn Bowden and Brian Edwards. So overall, they should have a really solid wide receiver core next year when you added Hunter Renfrow and Tyrell Williams. Damon Arnett was the head scratcher to me. Didn't really get that one. I think they're taking a big gamble on him in the first round, so we'll see if he comes through. John Simpson, I highlighted him in a previous podcast. Like I said, they love running the ball with Josh Jacobs, so put John Simpson right in front of him. He's going to open big holes for them. So overall, just a pretty solid draft for them.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid draft. We're going to move on to the LA Chargers. Trevor, do you want to hit this one and kind of run through their picks?
Yeah, good old Chargers. I would give them. I think I'd actually give it a B plus. I do like their draft. They needed a quarterback for the future. All they had is Tyrod Taylor on roster that I can think of, and they needed somebody to sit and learn the playbook and learn how to be a pro. So Justin Herbert in the first round, the big arm and the potential there. I think there's a lot of upside with him. Kenneth Murray, besides Isaiah Simmons, easily the best linebacker in this. Well, maybe not easily. Patrick Queen's really good, but Kenneth Murray is a sideline-to-sideline coverage back who's really good. And then to pair with Austin Eckler, we got Joshua Kelly out of UCLA who really showed out at the Senior Bowl. Me and Hunter both liked his tape a good bit. And then they added another couple wide receivers with Joe Reed and KJ Hill to add to that wide receiver core. So overall, I do think the Chargers are better today and for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think it was a solid draft. I don't love Herbert. We've talked about that enough. We don't have to talk about it anymore. But I think Herbert at 6 is always going to be a reach to me unless he shows up. Kenneth Murray, I think, is a great pick. Big fan of Kenneth Murray, like you were saying, one of the better linebackers outside of Isaiah Simmons. Josh Kelly in the 4th, I think, is an excellent value pick. And then KJ Hill in the 7th, I actually like a lot. I don't think he can run with like the real elite receivers or even the good receivers of this class. But I think he's still a solid piece for them to add some depth there at receiver in LA. So overall, I'd probably give it a B or B minus when it comes to this draft class for the Chargers.
Yeah. I love the Herbert pick because if he's not 100% ready, he can sit behind Tyrod Taylor. Kenneth Murray gives them a nice beefy linebacker rangy linebacker to help shore up that defense and to just add in with what they have. Joshua Kelly, nice spell back for Austin Eckler. And then KJ Hill in the 7th, I think has the potential to be an absolute steal for this team. All in all, I like this draft. I'm going to give them a B+.
Yeah, it's good. Let's talk about the Rams picks. They did not have a first-round pick this year, but did beef up on some middle rounds picks. Selected Cam Akers, one of my more favorite running backs of this running back class. Were able to get Terrell Lewis in the 3rd, as well as Bryson Hopkins, possibly the top tight end. Not obviously by pick, but someone we talked about maybe being the top tight end in the 4th. So I think that those are some pretty solid picks. I think Cam Akers is an excellent pick. I think Bryson Hopkins could be a good replacement. Gerald Everett's contract expires this year, their main tight end. So overall, I think it's just a solid draft. I'll give it a B+, maybe even an A-. I think that they buckled down and got some good picks here.
Yeah, I really like the Cam Akers in the 2nd. I'm also not high on Van Jefferson, though, in the 2nd. So those two kind of wash out for me. I like the Terrell Lewis pick if he can stay healthy. And then Terrell Burgess, only good things about him. I think he's supposed to be a very solid 2 depth piece or even a starter. But I'm going to give them a C+ because they took a fucking kicker. My hate for kickers and punters being drafted runs high. And I'm for the brand at Pat McAfee, but I just don't think they need to be drafted. I think you can get a lot of them undrafted free agents. I guess that's segregation to special teams players, but I don't know, man. I don't love it. But
yeah, I think we just found the name of this episode. It's Hunter Hates Special Teams. And Trevor, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Los Angeles Rams and the special teams players they may or may not have selected.
Okay, we are back. Sorry, everybody. We are having some major technical difficulties focused around Cato. So if you have any issues with this episode, talk to Cato, don't talk to us. Anyway, where we left off was Trevor's reactions to the LA picks. Trevor?
Yeah, good old Cato's having some internet problems, and he can't seem to keep his laptop charged just to give him a little shit. As far as the Rams draft this year, I would give a C+. J.K. Dobbins was there when they picked Cam Akers, so I like him a lot better than I like Cam Akers. Van Jefferson, I thought they could have gone a better wide receiver there in the second as well. Terrell Lewis, edge out of Alabama, I think he has a lot of potential, but his frame and his lack of ability to stay healthy really struggled with that pick. And then Bryson Hopkins, like Ryan said, is a pretty decent pick as a tight end. And then I think they needed linebacker help. They didn't really address that soon enough, in my opinion. So all in all, I wasn't a huge fan of their draft.
Yeah, definitely. I think they could have done better, but I also think they could have done a hell of a lot worse.
True.
So now that we've gotten that, we're going to move on to the Miami Dolphins, who had a metric fuck ton of picks in this draft. And they start off by taking Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback out of Alabama, in the first. Austin Jackson also in the first. And then Noah I can never get his name right. Trevor, you know how to say his name?
Igbenamidi? I don't know, bro.
Yes, the cornerback out of Auburn. We'll just call him Noah I for the sake of the podcast. Robert Hunt in the second. Raekwon Davis also in the second. Brandon Jones in the third. Solomon Kinley in the fourth. Jason Strobridge in the fifth. Curtis Weaver also in the fifth. Blake Ferguson and Malcolm Perry in the sixth and seventh, respectively. Trevor, what are your thoughts on this draft?
I thought they did a very fine job, to be honest. They've been taking for Tua for what feels like 8 years now, but it's only been about 18 months. I really like that pick. If they can keep him upright, it should really boost their offense. Austin Jackson, they needed left tackle after they traded Larry Tunsil. He's not a top-end tackle in this class, but he has the potential to be a really good tackle in the future. They did need another corner opposite of Byron Jones, so the Noah I from Auburn should be a really athletic piece for them. Robert Hunt from the University of Louisiana, I think.
Lafayette.
Lafayette, okay. Big guy. He can run block. He's got potential. So we'll see if he'll turn out for them. Brandon Jones, I highlighted in the previous podcast. I liked him a lot. Safety out of Texas. Raekwon Davis from Alabama. Didn't live up to his senior year hype, but overall should be a really good run stopper. Solomon Kinley, decent interior offensive line piece. Curtis Weaver, the defensive end from Boise State, falls all the way to the fifth. Should be a really decent athlete. Overall, I like their draft a good bit. I'd give it a solid A.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they had a very solid draft. The smokescreen they pulled to be able to pull Tua when everybody thought they were going Herbert was just insane. I thought it was one of the best smokescreens I've ever seen this draft. I haven't been covering it super long, but I have been invested in the draft since probably like 2012, and this was the best smokescreen I've ever seen. Austin Jackson the first. I know a lot of people aren't high on it, but I think he was the best player to help keep Tua upright. He can play either side. He's athletic enough. He's got the big size, big frame, and I think with a little bit of coaching, he can develop into a solid starter. I didn't love him, but he's grown on me a little bit there. No, I don't get when you have Xavier Howard, and then Byron Jones. Robert Hunt, also a very good pickup. But I think one of the biggest potential steals for this draft class in Miami is Curtis Weaver out of Boise State. A lot of people had him second round, some even late first round buzz. And he slid all the way into the fifth. Curtis Weaver is Boise's all-time sack leader. He's not the most athletic player, but I think he's going to be a very solid edge rusher at the next level. I'm going to give this draft an A.
All right, next up we got the Minnesota Vikings.
Holy hell on their picks. They have a lot.
Yeah, they killed it. I'd probably give this draft, as far as their needs, I'd probably give this a solid A+. They killed this draft. Thanks to the freaking Philadelphia Eagles, Justin Jefferson fell into their lap. Wide receiver at LSU, might be the best route runner in this class. Always gets separation, so this would be a really good tool up in Minnesota. Then you got Jeff Gladney, cornerback. They got him at the pick 31. As far as coverage goes, this guy's got it all. The only question with him is size. I think he's 5'10", but he plays his ass off, so I really like that pick for them. He's from TCU. Hold on, I'm having a couple technical difficulties myself. Stupid website. Then they got Ezra Cleveland, tackle out of Boise State. This guy had a really good combine. They do need tackle help and just overall offensive line help to begin with. So this could be a piece that they could develop and really turn into a good starter in the future. Cam Dantzler in the third. As far as the third round goes, I feel like this is a pretty solid pick for them. They do need a lot of corner help, so I can understand why they triple dipped at this position. Troy Dye, I really like his tape. Good. He's got a really good football IQ. Just got to worry about his frame. They talked about how it's hard for him to keep muscle on. So maybe they'll feed him something good once he gets to the NFL and get an NFL diet going. Kenny Willekes, I'm going to highlight him in the 7th round. I wanted the Falcons to pick him, but we didn't grab him. Really solid edge since they lost a couple of their edge, one, maybe two of their edge pieces, depending on if one of their other guys leaves a free agency, then I'm drawing a blank on. Overall, overall, I freaking love their draft.
Yeah, I'm going to give this draft an A. I'm just going to highlight a few of the picks here because they have way too many to name them all off. Justin Jefferson should not have been there in the first round. He should not have been. He should have been taken by Philly, but we'll get to Philly in a minute. Jeff Gladney in the first, also a very good pick. I loved him, and I wanted him over A.J. Terrell to Atlanta, but I think this is a very good spot for him. Another guy that I really like is DJ Wonham. He's an edge rusher out of South Carolina. Went in the 4th. I think it's a little high for him personally, but he does have an athletic ability that could provide some good edge depth. Troy Dye is a guy in the 4th that Trevor wanted to Atlanta pretty badly. All in all, solid player there. Kenny Willekes in the 7th, great value. I had him as a 3rd or 4th round grade. All in all, I think this draft is very good for filling depth and giving Minnesota the keys to just compete for the NFC North next year. A+ on my end.
All right, next we got the New England Patriots. I don't necessarily love this draft. I'll probably give it a C+. But knowing New England, they'll probably turn all their late-round guys into Pro Bowlers. They went Kyle Duggar with their first pick of this draft out of Lenore Ryan, I believe, and really good athlete. I think he's going to be a project, though, so it's kind of a high pick for a project. We'll see what Bill Belichick can do with him. I do like the Josh Uche pick, edge from Michigan. This guy's pass rushing skills is very good. He killed it at the Senior Bowl opposite of Bradley and I. Then you got Fernie Jennings, a linebacker. He plays more edge at Alabama. I did like him a good bit. I think he has health concerns, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Then they got Devin IC, tight end from UCLA. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And they also got Dalton Keene from Virginia Tech, another tight end. Their offense loves their tight end, so I didn't expect anything different from them taking 2. They did go kicker in the 5th, which I'm sure Hunter's going to roast. All in all, I was not a huge fan. We'll see if they pan out, but just a C plus from me.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a D plus. I think they reached on Kyle Duggar. I think he has potential to develop into something good for them, but I think they reached on him. He's an incredible athlete, but he does need a lot of development skills. But I think New England's the perfect place for that. Josh Uche is a player of the same caliber, very raw, very athletic. Will be developed though. Anthony Jennings, wow, I don't know why that was so difficult to say, is going to be a versatile linebacker for them. A CSC and Keen, I don't love those picks. I thought there were better tight ends on the board that could do what they did. But Belichick is the smartest football mind that I know. So, I mean, I don't know him. I wish I could know him. It'd be kind of cool to sit down and have a talk with him and ask him why the fuck you went a kicker in the 5th round. But that doesn't matter. I for the brand, whatever. Sorry, Pat McAfee. But there's absolutely no way you go kicker in the 5th with all these question marks surrounding this team. I'm not going to count New England out because it's still New England. But I just the 2 guards in the 6th, good depth. The linebacker in the 7th, more depth, and Woodard in the 7th, also more depth. I find this draft hard to give higher than a C. I'm giving it a D plus or a C minus. There's a lot of question marks around it. I think a lot of these guys could develop into good long-term starters for New England, but I would have changed it around a good bit. But like I said, I don't have 6 rings, so.
True.
On to the New Orleans Saints, who have one of the smallest draft classes in this class. They took Cesar Ruiz in the 1st, Zach Bond and Adam Troutman in the 3rd, and then a quarterback in the 7th by the name of Tommy Stevens out of Mississippi State. I think this draft is a C. I think Ruiz in the 1st is very good, but I don't think he's going to be an immediate starter. Zach Bond is a good chess piece for their defense. Troutman has the potential to be something solid for them. Give Breeze or Jameis or Taysom Hill or whoever the fuck is throwing the ball nice insurance at tight end. And then Tommy Stevens in the 7th. I don't get because he's a Taysom Hill clone. He's almost as athletic as Taysom, and I don't know, they just fit the same mold, and I don't get it. So Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Didn't love this draft. I'd probably go C minus to C probably. Cesar Ruiz will probably start maybe at right guard for them or opposite of Andrews Pete. I'm not sure which side he plays on. I think it's just a pick to keep Drew Brees upright for one more year, one more run at the Super Bowl, sorry. But they could go on like a more impactful player, in my opinion, like a Patrick Queen. I think Kenneth Murray was still there as well. I would have liked that pick a lot better. Zach Bond in the 3rd it's a good value pick, but he's not near the level of Patrick Queen and Kenneth Murray, in my opinion. Adam Troutman in the 3rd, though, that did need tight end help, and he killed the combine. So, really good value there. Overall, I feel like they could have done a little bit better with their picks that they had. Just a solid, I'm just going to go with a C as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. All right. And now onto the Giants, who took Andrew Thomas in the 1st, Xavier McKinney in the 2nd, Matt Pert in the 3rd, Darnay Holmes in the 4th, Shane Lemieux in the 5th, Cam Brown in the 6th, Carter Coughlin, T.J. Brunson, Chris Williamson, and Tay Crowder all in the 7th. And fun fact, Tay Crowder was Mr. Irrelevant. Trevor, thoughts?
It's an okay draft for me. I feel like we're giving it. I'd probably give them a solid B. Andrew Thomas feels a huge need for them. Should really step in at left tackle. Give Daniel Jones somebody to guard his backside. Xavier McKinney I think he's my favorite safety in his class. He can blitz. He can cover sideline to sideline. Decent ball skills. They're not crazy good. Then they double dipped at tackle as well with Matt Pert out of UConn. They need offensive help, so anything they can get. So a decent pick for the 3rd round. Highlight another guy, Carter Coughlin was very productive, and they got him the 7th round. which I think is going to be a really decent pick for them. Could turn out to be, because he works his ass off, so he could turn out to be like a 8-9 sack guy if he reaches his potential. Overall, just a solid pick for them.
Yeah. I definitely like this draft. I don't get the triple dipping at linebacker with Cam Brown, Brunson, and Crowder in the 6th and 7th, but that probably has a lot to do with Joe Judge's background with special teams, and gives him some special teams players to work with. I love Thomas because he can play either left or right tackle, as he did at UGA. He played both. McKinney in the 2nd is an absolute steal. I thought he was going first round, but he's my safety 1. But outside of those two, I don't really love this draft. I think Lemieux could maybe develop into a starter or be a nice depth piece. But all in all, I'm giving this draft a C.
Gotcha. Next, we're going to move on to the New York Jets. Their draft had some highs and lows for me. I'm probably going to go with a B-. Becton feels a huge need, literally a huge need because he's massive at left tackle for them. He's raw. He's going to be great for them in the run game, so Le'Veon Bell should add some more fantasy points for you guys out there. Pass protection needs some work, though. He needs a lot of help in that regard, but he has he's got a very high ceiling, I believe. Denzel Mims, pick 27 in the 27th pick of the 2nd round. This guy had a really good combine. I like this pick a lot. He's quick. He's big. Sam Darnold needs more help. They lost his number 1 receiver, which is Robbie Anderson, went to the Panthers. I like that pick a lot. Jabari Zuniga, he's going to help them with edge depth. LaMichael Pirine, also from Florida. I thought that was a little bit of a reach for him. I was not very high on him. But they do need some more running back depth. Bryce Hall in the 5th, I thought that was a really good value, though. So that's what helped raise their grade for me. So overall, just a decent draft for them. Solid B for me, I think.
Yeah, I definitely give New York a B+. I love Becton in the 1st, Denzel Mims in the 2nd. That's 2 immediate day 1 starters. Ashton Davis is going to be a solid depth piece, if not even a starter next to Jamal Adams. Don't love Pirine, like you were saying, but Bryce Hall in the 5th, absolute steal. But they drafted a special teams player in the 6th in Braden Mann, so I don't love that. But all in all, it's whatever. They're definitely getting a B+ because they finally helped Sam Darnold. I think Joe Douglas killed it in his first draft as the Jets GM, and Becton and Denzel Mims are incredible pickups for them.
All right. Next, we're going to move on the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, they had some head scratchers this year. I'd probably go C- here. First pick was Jalen Reagor. We've all mentioned that they need speed on that team, so they definitely went with speed on that team because Jalen is better receivers, in my opinion. I would want Justin Jefferson in a heartbeat.
Trevor, you cut out a little bit during that part. I'm not going to lie to you. Can you repeat a little bit of what you just said?
So Jalen Reagor, they went with him in the 1st round, and they went with speed. So speed over, I don't know. Justin Jefferson has really good routes, and he gets separation consistently. So I like him a lot better. Jalen Hurts in the 2nd. I know the fans hated it, and I may not be in love with it, but I do like the pick for them since Carson Wentz has been hurt a lot, and you can't argue that fact. So groom him behind him. He'll be a really high-end backup, maybe even a really good fill-in as a starter if Carson Wentz goes down again. Jack Driscoll is a tackle from Auburn. I know Jason Peters is still a free agent, so they did need to get some kind of tackle, so him in the 4th round is really good value. Overall, just a meh draft from them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's a solid draft. Not amazing. Reagor, don't love, like you were saying, should have went Jefferson or even Mims. But whatever there. Then Jalen Hurts in the 2nd. A lot of people don't really get, and truthfully, I don't love it. but it does provide some depth to Carson Wentz, which you saw in the playoffs. Even with Josh McCown as their quarterback, they were competitive against the Seahawks. So I guess in their mind, if they have to rely on a backup quarterback, why not get one of the better ones available? It hurts.
Yeah.
Kevon Wallace in the fourth has the potential to be something huge for them. I loved his game at Clemson. I think he's a little raw, though, around the edges at safety, but I think they could develop him into something nasty. All in all, I'm going to give this draft a B-.
Okay. Next, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, one of the better rosters in the league, so there's not too much to add, in my opinion. And they go wide receiver / tight end again with Chase Claypool in the second. This guy has a pretty high ceiling if he lives up to his potential. I'm not sure where they plan on playing him at wide receiver or tight end. He'll probably be a mixture of both, for being honest. So that weaponry up there in Pittsburgh is going to be really nice. Defensive end, they were already solid on that D line. They just add another piece. That's Alex Highsmith out of Charlotte, I believe. They did need another running back to pair with James Conner, so they went Anthony McFarland out of Maryland. He's a dynamic piece, so overall solid pick for them. As far as the draft, I'd probably give them a C+. It's just a decent one in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Claypool is a very big boomer bust pick in the second. I thought there were better receivers on the board than Claypool, but I don't know. I think it could have been worse. But Baby Booger in the fourth, nice compliment to James Conner. And then I think Antoine Brooks Jr. in the sixth is a very nice, underrated pick for them. Kevin Dotson is going to provide nice depth for them. All in all, I'm going to give them a C+.
Gotcha.
On to the Niners. Trevor, take it away.
I'm going to give this a solid A. They killed it. They traded away DeForest Buckner. They replaced him with pretty much his clone, which is Javon Kinlaw, but he won't be anywhere near the price. Javon Kinlaw immediately just fills a giant hole in their D-line. Brandon Ayuk, Arizona State wide receiver. They needed wide receiver help, so the rich get richer. This guy, he's a playmaker alongside Deebo Samuel, especially after Emmanuel Sanders left in free agency. I love that pick. And we mentioned Joe Staley retiring, so they got Colt McKivitz out of West Virginia. He can get groomed for a couple of years while they have Trent Williams on their roster. Should be a future pick for them. Charlie Warner, another tight end. Kind of a head scratcher in my opinion. Not much production out of UGA. But overall, I mean, just another weapon in that offense. And then Jawan Jennings in round 7, I thought that was a huge value pick. And overall, I thought they killed this draft.
Yeah, I love the Kinlaw pickup to replace Buckner. Absolute monster for that D-line. Is going to probably propel them back to the Super Bowl again through the NFC. Brandon Ayuk in the first, absolute incredible pickup. Once again, surprised he didn't go to Philly instead of Jalen Reagor, but whatever. It's fine. Jalen Reagor sucks. It's cool. Whatever. But he's going to be able to replace Emmanuel Sanders with ease. Charlie Warner in the sixth, hometown Georgia guy, will be a very solid blocking tight end for them. All in all, I'm going to give this draft a B because they didn't have that much to work with. They only had 2 firsts, really. Granted, they hit on those 2 firsts, but they didn't have anything really in the middle rounds that was anything that great. So.
Mm-hmm. Next, we'll get to Seattle Seahawks. Not a huge fan of this draft. I'd probably give it a C. They went Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech in the first round. I don't think he really fits the mold of the modern linebacker in the NFL, but the way that the 49ers run the ball like crazy, he is really good against the run. So I thought it was a little bit of a reach, but overall, he's an okay pick. Jarrell Taylor, he's a defensive end out of Tennessee. This guy's got some pretty good upside. And with Jadeveon Clowney's future uncertain, so I could understand the second-round pick. They could always use offensive line help, so Damian Lewis at LSU is a really solid pick for them in the third round. They love to run the ball, so DJ Dallas out of Miami, Ohio should be another depth piece. And then Steven Sullivan at a tight end in the 7th round could be a potential steal. He's got a lot of athletic upside, so if he turns out to be pretty good, should be a good steal. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of their draft, though, so just solid C for me.
Yeah, I think they could have done better than Jordan Brooks, especially with Patrick Queen still on the board.
Agreed.
But Brooks is okay there. Darrell Taylor, like you said, very safe pick, especially with Clowney still not officially re-signed. Damon Lewis, solid depth to a terrible O-line. I like Steven Sullivan in the 7th. He has the potential to be a mismatch nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. He's an incredibly athletic tight end from LSU. And I think he can be solid. I'm just going to give this draft a C+, though. I think there's a lot more they could have done better.
All right, next we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, I mean, A+. They killed it. Tristan Wirfs falls in their lap. They trade up one spot. Automatically gives some blindside help for Tom Brady. They're going on all in for the Super Bowl this year, so Tristan Wirfs will be a huge part of that this year. And then they got Antoine Whitfield Jr. out of Minnesota in the 2nd round. And this guy's been comped to the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, several times. He's just a playmaker. He's always around the ball somehow. So I love this pick for them. Then they kill it again in the 3rd round. They got Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt, one of the better senior running backs coming out of college. They've struggled with the run game. Ronald Jones hasn't lived up to his potential so far. So those two in the backfield should be really good. And then Tyler Johnson, just to add to that unbelievable wide receiver core, they freaking killed this draft. He should be just a solid third-man piece. Khalil Davis to add to that freaking interior D-line out of Nebraska has got a lot of potential. Overall, I just feel like they just killed this draft. A+.
Yeah, I love this draft. I love the Tristan Wirfs pick. Tyler Johnson in the 5th will give them a very good underneath receiver for Brady, kind of like an Edelman-type guy for them. Winfield Jr. in the 2nd, absolute monster in the secondary. I think this has potential to develop into a very good class and might be able to help them push for a Super Bowl. I hope they don't, but it might be able to help them push for it. All right, moving on to the Tennessee Titans.
All right, Tennessee Titans. I think this is a very risky draft, in my opinion. Very big above potential. I'm going to go solid C, maybe even C- here. They do love their run game, so with Derrick Henry. So Isaiah Wilson makes a lot of sense at right tackle after losing Jack Conklin. This guy, he's nasty in the run game, but he does need a little bit of work in the pass game. Christian Fulton, there's injury concerns, and he's had a little bit of character issues, but I don't think they're that big a deal. We've talked about him on the podcast, but they did need corner help. Darrington Evans, he's a dynamic back out of App State. I mean, we already talked about how much they love to run the ball. He could be a Dion Lewis replacement immediately, so I like that pick. Then they went interior D-line, which I thought was weird since they went 1st round Jeffrey Simmons last year, who turned out to be very good for them. And then Cole McDonald in the 7th. I mean, it's the 7th round. It's not that big a deal, but I don't think he's that great. Overall, this draft could be very good or very bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Wilson's incredibly raw, but has the potential to develop into a nice run mauler on that line. Fulton, I think, you're getting a day 1 starter right there, right off the bat. Evans is great coverage to Derrick Henry in case he goes down or anything like that. Murchison is just depth, I'm assuming. Same thing with Chris Jackson. And then Cole McDonald, I think, is going to be very – I think a lot of teams are trying to find a Taysom Hill-type player just to be an offensive mismatch who can kind of do it all. As we saw with Tommy Stevens by the Saints earlier. And wasn't there another one? My mind's drawing a blank. Oh, well. But Cole McDonald in the 7th is probably going to fit that role for them.
Gotcha. All right,
go ahead.
Next and last, we got the Washington Redskins. They got the best player in this draft. They got Chase Young out of Ohio State. I mean, there's not much to say. If you watch Nick Bosa from the 49ers last year, apparently if you look at the tape, Chase Young looks like he's a better prospect coming out of college. Then you got Antonio Gibson, a running back out of Memphis in the 3rd round. This guy's dynamic as crap and a playmaker, so they definitely need that because last year all they were doing was throwing it to Terry McLaurin and running the ball with Adrian Peterson. So overall, I feel like that should be a really good pick for them. And like we mentioned, they lost Trent Williams, so they added Sadiq Charles out of LSU. A lot of potential there in the 4th round. I feel like this is a really good pick for them. Overall, I'd probably give this draft a solid B.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that high. I love the Chase Young pick. I think was by far the best player in this draft. Gibson in the 3rd is going to be a nice offensive piece for them. And then Charles in the 4th will be hopefully a replacement to Trent Williams. Outside of that, I don't love anything. AGG, Antonio Gandy Golden from Liberty. He's a Senior Bowl standout, might develop into something, might not. Not entirely sure. But other than that, the rest of the guys were just depth, which isn't bad. You can never go wrong with depth. But I thought they should have tried to get guys who could at least compete for starting roles, and I don't think they did that.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to give this one a C+, or a C, actually. I'm going to go C. So.
Okay. Well, good old podcast listeners, thank you for listening. We will apologize about the quality of this one. I mean, it's been all over the place. Ryan's computer died and lost internet connection all at the same time. It's just part of the Rona. I mean, we're just going to have to deal with it. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you all next week. Have a good one.